We all know that football can be a very physical game with tempers boiling. Whether it's a regular league game or a cup competition, there's always something at stake, which is why you would see tackles flying around and players not giving each other an inch. Every blade of grass counts for something, and in the heat of the moment, some tackles can be, shall we just say, a little more enthusiastic. No, that's not the right term, because a lot of tackles can be horrendous. In many cases, players don't seem to be interested in getting the ball, so you can imagine the fallout of such tackles. We start with a player who's normally the most level-headed on the pitch. Yes, we're talking about Bayern Munich star Thomas Müller. The incident happened in the last group game of the 2018 UEFA Champions League, where the Bavarians took on Ajax. The game was already a pulsating encounter, with both sides going at each other. In the 75th minute, chaos erupted when Müller tried to bypass a long ball. Unfortunately, his intervention saw his foot absolutely clatter the Ajax fullback Tagliafico, who went down writhing in agony. The Argentine had a laceration on his forehead, and Müller was rightly given his marching orders. But this one wasn't as crazy as the next, because what one Cameroon player did at the 1990 World Cup game against Argentina was horrendous. Claudio Caniggia was on the receiving end of a horror tackle. Before it happened, the legendary forward had been making a mockery of the Cameroonian defense. In one of those mazy runs, Caniggia evaded a few tackles and was pretty much through on goal before Massing Benjamin decided to completely obliterate him. That was clearly a tackle aimed at injuring the forward. Obviously, the Cameroon defender was sent off, but that doesn't discount the sheer brutality of the tackle. Now, we all know that Pepe is an absolute monster when he's on the pitch, and we don't mean it in a good way. The Portuguese centre-back is notorious for trying to injure fellow professionals, and did a lot of nasty things during his time at Real Madrid. One such incident happened in the last 8 of the Copa del Rey against Barcelona. During an attacking sequence, Lionel Messi was brought down. While he was sitting on the pitch, thinking about what he'd do next, Pepe casually walked past him, but not before intentionally stepping on his left hand. The referee didn't see the incident, and there was no VAR at the time. However, Barcelona went on to win the encounter, and Pepe even apologized for an unintentional stomping. Referees can be very bad at spotting horrible fouls, and this was the case way back in the late 80s, when Liverpool's very own monster, Graham Souness, nearly cleaved his opponent in half. As you can see, this was as intentional as a tackle can be.
I'm afraid you can't do that.
Feels safe to even call it an assault. And guess what? The former midfielder got away with it and wasn't even booked.
That can't be football. That's got to be something else.
English football has offered us a lot of such stuff. This is a country where you'd find a lot of hard men, from the crazies of Wimbledon to the catamoles of Middlesbrough. This is the place if you're a fan of horrible tackles that end careers. John Terry was one of those hard men and took no prisoners during his time at Chelsea. In a League Cup game against Arsenal, Terry was on the receiving end of a horrible tackle. Completely unintentional, but Diaby's foot hit Terry on the mouth and the English centre-back fell, unable to breathe. He did recover, thankfully, but has no memory of the incident. In the 2011 Spanish Super Cup game, a hotly contested affair between Real Madrid and Barcelona. Barca were leading 3-2, and the referee was preparing to blow the final whistle. But before he could do that, Marcelo hacked down Cesc Fabregas and did not attempt to win the ball. A brawl ensued with the Brazilian fullback given his marching orders. In the ensuing scuffle, Jose Mourinho pinched the ear of the late Barcelona coach Tito Villanova. There were lots of red cards, with David Villa and Mesut Ozil also seeing red.
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble.
While he was playing for Standard League, Axel Witsel did something that had no place in the game. The Belgian midfielder broke the leg of an Anderlecht player by literally stamping on his trailing leg. He was shown a straight red card and was also banned for 8 games. Remember, we said that referees can make some truly horrible calls. This one is another great example. In the 2010 World Cup final between Spain and the Netherlands, Nigel de Jong almost ended the life of Xabi Alonso when he went for a Spartan kick on the Spanish midfielder. The foul was the easiest red card offense, but the referee just showed him a yellow card. In the 80s, football was hard, and referees did little to protect players. In a Bundesliga encounter between Arminia Bielefeld and Werder Bremen, Ewald Lien was on the receiving end of a very poor tackle. He did recover in a few weeks, but sued Norbert Siegmann and Werder manager Otto Rehhagel. Lien claims that Rehhagel encouraged his players to be hard on him.
Go.
The next time these two sides met, Rehhagel sat on the bench while wearing a bulletproof vest. So, you can imagine how serious the situation was. Now, let's go back to England, where Eduardo's career was never the same. The Brazilian forward was as promising as they'd come, but one tackle effectively ended his rise to the top. Ryan Taylor's tackle broke his leg in 2 places, and Eduardo was never the same again. A few years later, another Arsenal player was on the receiving end of a horror tackle. This time around, the offense was committed by Stoke's Ryan Shawcross, whose tackle broke Aaron Ramsey's leg. The young defender was visibly distraught and definitely didn't mean it. The defender was banned for 3 games, and fortunately, Ramsey was able to recover and continue his development. For those of you who don't know who the Butcher of Bilbao is, let's go back to the 80s when Atletico Bilbao had quite a rivalry with Barcelona. During a 1983 league game between the two, Diego Maradona was tackled from behind and broke his ankles. The Argentine was forced to miss several months of football due to this, and Andoni Goicoechea was given an 18-game ban. In 2006, when Manchester City were just a regular side in the Premier League and had Joey Barton as their star man, they also played a very physical brand of football. During a game against Portsmouth, Pedro Mendes was taken completely out by Ben Thatcher, whose elbow crashed into the Bombay midfielder. The referee, however, gave the City man a yellow card. However, you must give it to City for suspending the player indefinitely, rather than defending him for his actions. The 1982 World Cup semi-final between France and Germany was a game of flying tackles and some horrible calls. German keeper Harald Schumacher clattered into Patrick Battisson when the former tried to close him down during a one-on-one situation. The Frenchman was lying like a log and was taken off on a stretcher while wearing a neck brace and missing 3 teeth. And guess what? The German goalkeeper escaped punishment and went on to save 2 penalties in the shootout. That tackle, however, wasn't as bad as the next one. Roy Keane was a leader at Manchester United, but the red mist did seem to take over him now and then. During the Manchester derby, his 2-footed flying lunge pretty much ended the playing career of Alf-Inge Haaland. The reason behind this tackle was that a year prior, the Norwegian screamed at Keane while he was lying down with a torn ligament. Keane was never going to forget the moment and made sure to take out his opponent for good. The Irish midfielder was suspended for 8 games in total after he admitted that he wanted to hurt Haaland. Of all the tackles, this was the worst one because Keane had been planning to end Haaland's career for months during his rehab. So guys, these were some of the most horrible tackles in football history. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And before you leave, make sure to smash the like and subscribe buttons, turn on your notifications, and watch this next video. Till next time,